Hello, fellow nerds, and welcome to Our Nerdiest Thing. Today we have a very special guest, author Natalina Reis. Natalina wrote her first romance in collaboration with her best friend at the age of 13. Since then, she has ventured into other genres, but romance is first and foremost in everything she writes. She worked as a tour guide in her native Portugal for a short time before moving to the United States. She lived in 3 continents and a few islands, and her knack for languages and linguistics led her to a master's degree in education. Natalina weaves all these experiences into her stories, both contemporary and fantasy. Romance fascinates Natalina because of its message of hope. Love is, after all, the one thing everyone, no matter who they are, needs and craves. So what could be better than a story where the main characters get their happy ending? Natalina doesn't believe you can have too many books or too much coffee. Art and dance make her happy, and she's pretty sure she could survive on lobster and bananas alone. When she is not writing or stressing over lesson plans, she shares her life with her husband and 2 adult sons. Welcome to the podcast, Natalina.
What an amazing intro, by the way. I think we should be friends.
I know.
I'm like lobster, coffee, and books.
Yeah.
You got me.
I'm totally with you. I'm never too many books and never too much coffee. Yeah. Like, I'm overly caffeinated 100% of the time.
I haven't even told you all this yet. I went to this, like a local little museum was doing a book sale today, and I went and came back with a huge box full of art books and like a big brown paper bag. It was $19.
Oh, that's awesome.
Because it was like the last day. It was the bargain day. I got some great books. Nice. But yeah, never too many books.
Well, thank you so much for being here, Natalina. And just tell us a little bit about yourself. That's a pretty awesome intro. It sounds like you've had a very adventurous life.
Yeah, not due to myself. I'm not a very adventurous person. But my dad worked for an airline.
Oh, cool.
So it was like being a little bit like being in the military. So every so often we were sent somewhere for a year or 2. So I got to live in quite a few places in Africa.
Wow.
It was a great experience.
That's way better than like Cleveland. Like that's where you normally hear like my dad was a pilot. We lived in Cleveland.
Oh, yeah. And I didn't realize how lucky I was when I was living the life until later on. We start comparing notes with other people. I'm going, oh, I guess I was pretty lucky.
What? Not everybody goes and lives in Africa for a year?
Apparently not. And then I married a Navy guy. So another, moving around, I had the great experience of living in Scotland for 4 years.
Wow.
Scotland is beautiful.
Yes. And that's still here. It's, I have to go back sometime. Actually, my youngest son was born in Scotland.
Oh, that's lovely.
I love that.
Yeah.
Where in Scotland did you live?
I lived in a little town called Brecon. It's between Aberdeen and Dundee.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's where at the time, now it's closed. There was an American base there.
Oh, okay.
Cool.
They've closed it since we left. So
the man who officiated my wedding to my husband is from Aberdeen.
Oh yeah.
So, yeah.
Oh yeah.
It's a cute, it's a cute little
great.
place.
It's beautiful country. I loved it, and the people there. I still have a lot of friends there. So one of these days I'll go back and show it. My son was like 3 when we came back. So even though he calls himself Scottish, he
just says that for the ladies.
Yes, of course.
Because every woman is like, oh, really? They're like that Jamie Fraser. Well, tell us a little bit about, when you knew you wanted to be an author. How did you start crafting stories? Like, what drew you into this writing world?
So I've always written ever since I could put words on the page since I was little. But I didn't really start considering it for publication until I moved to the United States, believe it or not.
Wow.
As an adult already. And, but I was brand new to the country. I had no clue what I was doing. I don't even know I can't remember how I found all the resources that I did at the time. And this was the age of the dinosaurs where you still had to type all your stuff in very expensive paper and send it out. And you would never see it again because they never returned anything you sent. So I tried for a few years, but in the meantime, I had children, and life just got busy, and it was getting really expensive.
Right.
To send all those things out. So I kind of quit. I didn't quit writing, but I did quit trying to be published until about almost 8 years ago when I met a local group, a very small group of women that loved writing. And we just started writing things. And then I heard about the NaNoWriMo experience. And I says, I can do that. I can write a book in a month. And sure enough, I did. And I just got lucky. I ran for one of those, what was it, the Pit Mad on Twitter. Mm-hmm. And I just got lucky enough that I found somebody that was interested in the manuscript right away. So
that's awesome.
That's so cool.
That's amazing. Yeah, my daughter tried to do that in November, and she's 15, and she made it 2 days. And she said, Mom, that's a lot of words in one day. I said, I know. That's why it's called a challenge. It's supposed to get your brain working, and it doesn't have to be your final draft. It just needs to be, you wrote in 30 days, right? And so that's really amazing though that, and it's funny that you said that about the manuscript, because J.R. Ward, a local fantasy author here, she does a series called The Black Dagger Brotherhood. She talked about, she was actually in medicine and moved to Kentucky with her husband and did the same thing. It was she had been on the bestseller list, but she was changing genres, and it was going to be her final thing. And she said she put this manuscript into the mail, and she's like, if it gets lost, I don't know what I'm going to do. Like, cause she had typed it, right? Like, there's no making copies of that. So, well, tell us a little bit about your fantasy romance, Kiss of the Swan. We'd love to hear more about it.
So that one in particular actually started with a cover.
Oh, I love that.
Yes. I know about a couple of years ago, I think, someone introduced me to this cover design, Adriatica Creations. She's from Croatia. Yep. And I just loved her covers. And then one day she just posted this cover, and I had to have it. I had no story, no idea, no nothing, but I just had to have that cover. And then I started thinking of the Magic Swan's fairy tale. And unfortunately, I cannot stick to one story. I get a bunch of stories and I kind of just mix them all up. So by the time I was finished with the story, it was a mixture of the Magic Swans. It had a little bit of Sleeping Beauty, kind of very twisted version of it, and a little bit of Whipping Boy. Oh, probably a few others in there that I haven't even noticed. But it's about, like most of my story, it's about two outcasts, two people that, are the underdogs, and they find the strength to fight against those that are oppressing them because they find each other, and through love, like in most of my stories, there's a very happy ending.
I love that. Whitney's a simp for a happy ending. I will say I love a happy ending if it makes sense. If it doesn't make there's a series that we both read that I loved the ending of it because it was this very strong female that could never really be tied down to a man, right? And it didn't make sense for her to be, but because it didn't end that way, Whitney was like, no, the series is dead to me.
Yeah, I hated it. It made me so upset.
Well, we know that you have a affinity for romance, to write romance. Is that your favorite type to write of story?
It is. I mean, if I had any saying in the matter, I would not have called it romances. I don't even know what I would call it. Stories with love story in it.
I love that. Yeah, like a love story.
Yeah, because I found reading other romances, I find that mine don't always fit in. But it's romance. I mean, there's always a love story, and I have to have a happy ending. Sorry.
Don't apologize.
Don't apologize for that.
Like I said, I don't mind a happy ending, but this specific series, that woman would have not ended up with any man. I'm telling you now.
Everyone deserves love.
She loved herself, Whitney.
I'm hoping it makes sense, the happy ending. And normally, because they are normally outcasts, the protagonists are normally outcasts, so it's sort of like they won at the end. So there's that satisfaction of seeing somebody who's been, stepped on and whatever.
I love that. Like
the winners
underdog.
at the end. So,
I love a good underdog story. What kind of stories do you like to read?
Kind of a lot of I'm a mood reader, so it depends on my mood. But I read a little bit of, I went through stages where all I read was mystery. I always read romance in one form or another. I found that Harlequin romance is kind of an interesting story because they didn't exist in Portugal.
Really?
Right?
Okay. Is that a very U.S. thing?
Now probably there is, but back then, it was definitely just a U.S. thing. And but my dad, because he worked in an airline, he was the mechanic, so he fixed the planes. So he would go into the planes, and people would leave this mass market paperbacks.
Oh, that's cool.
Inside the plane. They didn't want them anymore. It was just for the trip. So he knew I loved reading. He had no idea what those stories were about because they were in English. And he would just bring them home. He brought all kinds of home. I think one time I even had one that was, I'm pretty sure it was in Danish and it was like an erotic novel. I couldn't read it. So I was, but I knew that's what it was. But yeah, so I read a lot of Harlequin romance because of that. It was kind of random, whatever showed up in the plane. But I do read, I love stories with some kind of romance in it.
I do too.
Me too, yeah.
Yeah. I read a lot of young adult. I love fantasy. So that's my major. I think that's where my really, especially right now, that's my mood right now. It's fantasy. And, but I love things like with hints of other cultures or other languages. Things that are even little twisted stories that do different. They pick up a story and then they twist it. And so I guess I like everything, really.
And you said twisted. I love all these retellings that are really popular right now. And Emily McIntyre, she always says they're not fairy tale retellings. They kind of are. But I love that she takes these very sweet stories and turns them really into dark romance. And, it's something where you're reading it and you're like, that is not what Peter Pan did the last time I read this. But then you're like, I think I like this Peter Pan better. And, fantasy is amazing. And people that don't read it, I really struggle with people that say they've never really tried to read it because writing, just your reality romance is wonderful. And there's some amazing authors out there. But to create a world and rules in that world that you get the reader to believe is something really special. And I don't think anything can beat a really great fantasy world that you think about for years after you read it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And that's what I love about fantasy. It's like when you read a good one, it just stays with you for forever, really.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, on the podcast, we talk about books that we love, but we also talk about fandoms, TV shows, music that we are nerding out about. So we would love to know some of your fandoms or some other nerdy things that you just love or hobbies that you have.
So I have some, I guess, strange, not hobbies, but strange likes, I guess. I don't normally follow like a fandom. I've never been, like a groupie of anything. I like stuff, but I never get too deep into it.
I feel like I'm a groupie for everything. My husband's like, oh gosh, she's got a new obsession.
But if you look around my room, there's definitely, signs of that I actually follow some things, not to some extent. But my biggest one lately, for the past, 3 or 4 years, it's a lot of people haven't even heard of it. It's a Chinese BL drama fantasy series. I don't even know what to call it because it's just it's very unique, and it's called The Untamed. And it came from a book. I actually have all the books too. And I love it so much that I've got stickers everywhere and art.
Oh,
I know.
See, you're
fan
part of
art
a
everywhere.
I was gonna say,
fandom.
that sounds like a
Yeah, I
fandom
was
to
gonna
me.
say, you're grouping over those books, but you'll have to send us a link because I love finding things that people don't
Yeah.
really know about that
Yeah.
are like these instant treasures. But yeah, you're a groupie of that fandom for sure.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
So now we're going to do our nerdy and dirty speed round. So I'm going to just give you some prompts, and we would love for you to answer with just the first thing that pops into your head. No right or wrong answers. But if you're right, I'll tell you. All right. So favorite cocktail?
Don't drink. So I'm going to say strawberry milk tea.
Ooh,
Oh.
strawberry milk tea.
Mhm.
Okay, so
Nice.
is that like iced tea with strawberry milk?
It's a little bit of tea
Mm-hmm.
with cold milk, with strawberry milk, and then the bubbles, the tapioca
Yeah, the
Like
boba.
boba?
thing. Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
Okay.
cool.
Good. Very refreshing.
I'll have to try that. That sounds
That
great.
does sound good. All right. Favorite fandom?
The Untamed.
Most binge-worthy TV?
I gotta say The Untamed again.
Oh, it's television. I thought it was just books.
It's streaming. Yeah. So yeah, Netflix has it actually right now.
Oh,
Yeah.
Oh,
we'll
okay.
have to
Yeah.
check that out. Maybe that'll be next season of the podcast. Who
Yeah.
knows?
Guilty pleasure?
I don't know. Chinese dramas, fantasy dramas.
Oh, awesome.
Okay. Book character that you would get nerdy and dirty with?
I gotta say, one of the last books that I read, Prince Soren from the Ash. No, not. I'm sorry, not the Ash. Yes, the Ash Princess.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
The Ash Princess by Laura. I've got a terrible name.
I know,
Memory for names.
it's on the tip of my tongue, but I do know who you're talking about.
Yes.
We'll put it in the show.
Yeah, we'll
notes.
put it in
I
the
love her.
Team Edward or Team Jacob?
I guess I would have to pick Edward.
Like if I had to pick one.
I guess.
Yeah.
Who is your book boyfriend or book bestie?
I think his weighing from The Untamed.
Who is your book girlfriend or book bestie?
That's a hard question. I think maybe the princess from the Ash Princess right now,
Okay.
because that's it's fresh in my memory.
Right.
Smut or plot?
Plot, definitely plot.
Favorite childhood book?
I love the Brother Grimm's fairy tales.
Oh,
Nice.
yeah. Do you like the original ones or after they took out all of the stuff that now wouldn't be shelved at schools?
Yeah, no, the original ones. My grandmother used to read me the real scary ones.
Yeah.
As a kid, yeah.
That's cool.
And favorite cereal?
I don't eat cereal, so I'm going to say oatmeal.
Oh, I love oatmeal.
I love a good
That's
oatmeal.
a hot cereal.
Yes.
Yeah, of
Yeah, that
course.
counts for sure.
So on the same scope of our nerdy and dirty speed round, we're just going to do hot or not. Some of these are situational and some of them are celebrities. So if you don't know the celebrity, just say pass. No big deal.
Okay.
And if you're like, who is that? I think I know that name. We can give you some reference too. Okay. So Pedro Pascal.
Hot.
Yes.
Miley Cyrus.
Not.
She doesn't do it for me either. Tessa Thompson.
No.
Paul Rudd.
Yes.
Okay. Sebastian Stan.
No.
Jensen Ackles from Supernatural.
Oh, God, yes.
Correct.
So we tell everyone that has a reaction like that, we have a 6-foot cardboard cut out of him and our show notes are taped to him. He's right here in front of us. We like Jensen a lot. Small Town Romance.
It's okay.
Ben Barnes.
Yes.
Yes, correct.
Yes. Hot.
Timothy Chalamet.
Yes. No.
Someone being sweaty after a workout.
Ew. No. Sorry.
Correct.
So
No
people
sweat, no
either
sweat.
really love that or they really don't. Okay. The Rock.
No.
Tom Hiddleston.
Yes. Hot.
Second Chance Romance.
Love it.
I do too.
Yes.
And finally, Kristen Stewart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to be seeing you at Imaginarium Book Festival in May in DC. I can't wait to meet you in person. And by then we'll have watched The Untamed and we'll be able to just fangirl with you about it. Because now I'm very intrigued by this show. But what other festivals or signings or ways that people can come out and see you are you involved in this year?
In July, I'm going to be at the SAS 23 in Norfolk, Virginia.
Yeah.
It's like a yearly thing I've been going for a few years now. And then in September, I'm going to be at the C3 conference in Colombia, which is a mixture of different genres. And I will have smaller. Right now, I don't have them scheduled yet, but like I normally do the Cascades Library.
Oh, that's great.
In Sterling. And there's another one that I would like to go, but I might be out of the country. So that's going to be kind of complicated.
Traveling always trumps, doesn't it? Right. If you get to go somewhere great, it always trumps work.
Oh, I hate it. Yeah. But yeah, this year I don't have as many. I made a decision at the beginning of the year to cut down. I was going to things like every month and spending a lot of money. So this year I said, no, this year I'm going to be really picky. I'm going to Imaginarium, which I'm really excited about. I almost decided not to go, and then at the last minute I'm going.
Well, we're glad
I was there last
to go.
year.
Yeah.
What ways can we best support your work? Anything we can do?
Well, this is wonderful what you're doing. I was very excited when I heard it. I'm always telling my readers that the best way that they can support me is just leave reviews.
Do you hear that a lot?
Yeah. Do you have a preferred platform? Like, is there one that you think is better than another to leave a review?
Not really. I mean, Amazon, obviously, because that's where most of the book sales come through. But BookBob is good too, and I mean, in Goodreads, a lot of people hate Goodreads because
I love it.
There's a lot of trolls there. However, I love it too. I'm always there. I mean, I keep track of my reading there, and so a review is good no matter where.
Okay. Well, where can we find you online?
I am everywhere, really. I'm in way too many places. So I'm in Facebook. I'm in Instagram, obviously. I'm in TikTok. I'm kind of giving up a little bit on TikTok. It's fun, but it's not really working out. And I'm even on Twitter, even though I barely ever go there. And I've got my own website.
Great.
Goodreads, BookBob, everywhere.
Awesome. And finally, one thing that we do on our podcast at the very end is we always tell each other what our nerdiest thing of the week is, something we experienced or did or whatever that was super nerdy. So we want you to share with us what your nerdiest thing in recent times has been.
Okay. I don't know. I do a lot of nerdy things, but
so do we.
We do too.
Yeah. Maybe the nerdiest thing this week was I collect what do you call that? Squishmallows.
Oh yeah.
I keep buying them. I'm a teacher too. So I buy them for my students and then I buy them for myself. And I'll have to show you this squishmallow. I was very excited. I found a Chinese store at the mall.
Oh, wow. Oh my gosh, that is so cute.
My daughter has literally went out and bought herself 2 shelves to hold all her squishmallows. And she's really in college. Cute. It's not like she's a kid. You know what I mean?
Well, this has been really fun to meet you and get to talk to you, Natalina. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast and chatting with us.
Thank you for inviting me. This was great.
And we'll see you, in like 6 weeks at Imaginarium. Okay, well, come say hi and give you a hug.
All right. Yeah, please do.
Okay, see you soon.
Bye.
All right, bye.
Have a good night.